Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the art of storytelling. Okay, so obviously, you're going to have your characters, which are your people involved. You're going to create certain characters with it. The story has to go somewhere, it's got to be done. Something has to be done, it's got to be. It has to be original. It can be a spin off of something that's done before. So, for example, today we're going to explore the story of being a slave. Okay, so obviously you've been persecuted, so that's a hook point there. Being persecuted. So we're dealing with the subtopic of persecution. So if we're talking about persecution, we're talking about race discrimination, gender discrimination, personality discrimination, looks discrimination, any subtopic of discrimination. So we're hitting that emotional chord of equality, people being equal to one another. Okay, so obviously growing up, we should be being taught that it's good to create a equal society. Okay. So that's some of the subtopics on slavery that strike emotional chords. We all have emotional chords, certain beliefs that we hold on to about what we think is right and wrong. Ultimately, there is truth involved as to what is actually right and what is actually wrong. So there is an underlying element of truth. I think slavery is wrong on all sorts of levels because I don't think it's failing a human. I don't see an Alsatian being treated differently to a Labrador. They're both animals, so they should be treated equally. Obviously, black people are human beings, so they should be treated accordingly. And obviously, women should be valued equally with their own unique talents. Personality, looks, all of the stuff, it doesn't really matter. This is superficial bullshit, and we don't want to create a society that's superficial. Ultimately, all the superficial people can fade away into nothingness, and we're left with pure, genuine people. Those are the kinds of people we want to be spending time with. Those are the kind of people with ideas. Those are the kinds of people with the talent. Those are the kinds of people that are creating and making things happen. Those are the kinds of people that move a society forward. Okay, so slavery. So obviously, it's set in, I think, Austin, Texas, in the cotton fields. So we have a location. The location is being set in Austin, Texas. So what is the environment like? Well, it's about agriculture, work, order. There's a hierarchy involved. There's a system. So there's nothing wrong with the hierarchy as long as there's respect involved in the hierarchy. Everyone should be working as a team, moving together as a unit. It's important not to have any prima donnas on the team because we all ultimately are one unit, and according to our skills and capabilities and time that we've spent working there, that's where we should be placed in the hierarchy. So it's fair enough to say that if somebody's placed in a hierarchy and they have an idea that can propel the hierarchy forward, they should be promoted. That's fair enough. You can be employed in a job, and in your spare time you might be thinking about the work and completely reinvent the entire company. In the space of 2 months, you might have been employed for 2 months at a new job, and you might have an idea to reshape the entire organization. You pitch it to your superiors, and they like it, and then obviously you get promoted because you're generating income for, you're generating income for the entire company. You're expanding the organization. So I think it's a good idea to have platforms where the employer's voice can be heard. Obviously, the leader should take every voice equally as important, as we are all human beings and we all have equal capabilities or potential. So it's situated in a hierarchy. You got certain hierarchy, it's certain people above you. And this is now talking about the slavery. That's the location. That's the setup. Obviously now we have abuse of power. So now we're talking about abuse of power. You know, what do you do when people are abusing power? That's where we need the law to come in. We need the law. We need to start recognizing people's emotional rights as opposed to just physical rights. It's not enough to just say you can prove something in black and white. We need opinions, and the lawyers need to be so skilled at listening that they can tell just by the tone of the voice of the person speaking who's right and who's wrong. You know, I mean, if somebody's emotionally abusing me and I can't prove it, then where do I stand with that? How do I defend myself? Even though I can't prove it in black and white, he hasn't hit me in the face, I can say, you know, maybe I can get a recording of it. That would be a good option. But just to have my voice heard in the court of law, and just to speak my truth, standing in front of God, speaking my truth. I think if everyone was doing that, we'd have a lot more fair society. I don't think it's right that you should just have things based on proof. I think there are black and white areas, and this is why lawyers and judges need to be skilled at discerning what is true and what is not true. And they're going to be making mistakes, but I think this is a more open law system, and ultimately, you know, a lot of people are going to be failing, and that's fine. I think maybe we could say in cases of murder and stuff like that, that maybe there needs to be more physical evidence given the life sentences. But if we're talking about petulant things for the value of 20,000 rand, emotional abuse, I think we can listen to the stories that are being told, and the judge must be swayed, because ultimately I'm going to be standing up there speaking my truth, and if you can hear my truth speaking coming through, as opposed to a pensive hidden lawyer who's hiding behind his laws and regulations. He's not stepping up to the chopper block and speaking his truth. He's not expressing himself as he really is, and then obviously he's hiding something, and you can see that. So emotional abuse is a huge part. You're not allowed to make fun of people, and you're not allowed to put them down and make remarks and even isolate them from the group. You're not allowed to do. These kinds of things must be recorded. This is the kind of stuff that needs to be recorded on videos. People being ostracized from groups. I want to see what groups are ostracizing what people and for what reasons. I want to see these people exposed. This isn't them saying, no, you can't put these videos of me. You should be allowed to put these videos of these people. You know, these people actually don't have rights who are abusing the system. They need to be exposed. We need to be exposing these people for what they are, the society for what they are. I want webcams in all the conversations. I want this conversation live. I want to hear so-and-so gossiping about so-and-so so I can prove it. Put it out there that this person's gossiping. Look at this person. Look at this. This is not right. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable behavior, and we as a society are not standing for it. We do not advocate bullying and emotional abuse. We don't like it. We want to sit and laugh and expose these people for what they really are. Fraudsters. We want them rooted out of our system. We want them rooted out of our society. We don't want them to exist. We don't want them to have rights. We want them in jails. We want these people in jails. We want them bankrupt, and we want them living on the streets poor, squabbling over who's the biggest fool. Okay, so basically that's the story. And obviously the slave fights for his rights and eventually becomes free after all those years. And then it's the whole question of time. You know, what am I doing with my time? Time management. You know, Nelson Mandela been locked away for 20-something years of his life. You know, ultimately, you know, his life was stolen away from him. Time's a precious commodity. So what are we doing with our time? You know, what are we doing with our time management? Why are we spending 9 to 5 working in a job just because of time? Why aren't we just doing 2 hours of productive work in the morning and having the rest of the day free? Why are we wasting our times talking about useless information during our lunch hour when we could be on a beach sipping pina coladas? Why aren't we doing these things? Why is the system not changing? What is preventing us from changing the system? As a community, we need to have a voice and we need to be making wise decisions. There needs to be leadership within the community platforms. There needs to be discipline and authority. You can't have people swaying the group to some negativity. There needs to be fighting involved. There needs to be a certain level of fighting in the group. You know, if I'm talking about fighting, if it comes down to a fight, then, you know, we could have live boxing matches. This guy fighting over this thing and this, seeing who wins. I mean, it seems animalistic, but after all, we are animals at the end of the day, and it seems like everything is an underlying abuse of power. So why don't we just set up boxing matches, live boxing matches? This guy's boxing for our rights, and if he wins, he wins. If he loses, he loses. But let's have a fight, a fist fight. Not a. We don't need. We can have a competition like, you know, like the Olympic Games, as opposed to like having wars in Israel, for example. We don't need to take it that far. You know, we can just have a competition within whatever leadership program you follow. You're going to be backing that person to win the fight, given his character. We are human beings here. We are animals. You see animals fighting all the time. Fighting is part of our makeup. It's a part of who we are. Competition. In order to get things moving, we need competition. So competition is very important. Competition is very important. It's not just entertainment. This is competition, okay? We're competing against each other, but we don't need to be using guns and killing each other. We can just be fighting in a controlled environment, not till death, just until somebody knocks each other out. You know, I'd like to see Donald Trump in the ring against Barack Obama, fighting for a law that should be based. The United Nations being the central government of the world versus America being the powerhouse of military. I'd like to see Barack Obama and Donald Trump in the ring. I think Barack Obama will give Donald Trump 6 love. Instead of having to sit around listening to this tomfoolery the whole time, and everyone listening to Barack Obama, actually listening to him, knowing that he's the one making more sense, we still have to listen to this guy because he's got the whole military behind him. And you know, yes, he's got personality, and ultimately it is an age of personality, which is why people chose him in the first place, but then they didn't realize what this personality would have done. You know, it's great to be the center of attention and stuff, but, you know, you can be listening to some loudmouth narcissist for half an hour. When are you going to actually check out of the conversation and say, excuse me, but actually, I don't have time to listen to you, I'm moving on, can you please stop talking? You're distracting people around me, I want to have an important conversation, you know? So these are the kinds of things we need to talk about. Our lawyers, we need the right lawyers. So that's time. Ultimately, the guy in the story gets freed and looks back on his life, and he's had a spiritual revelation of what it means to be human when everything's stripped away from you. people always talk about, you can only be spiritual, godly once you've been blessed. But actually, it's the reverse. Is the opposite is the case. Is that God really comes to you during your times when you have nothing, because ultimately that's when you have the only thing you have to rely on is God. And these are the kinds of things we want to hear about. We want to hear about some guy who's been stripped clean, and the only thing he has is himself and God, and he's living on apples every day. And eventually he gets to a stage where he starts his own business, he has his own family, he's freed, he's got a story to tell, he's got scars, he's got wounds. These are real stories. This is inspirational stuff. That's an inspirational moment for a little child watching this, saying, this is what I want to be. We want real people, we want good people. We want good people in this world. We want good people. We want we want people like Robin Hood, and we want stories like Lancelot and King Arthur and Spider-Man and Superman. We want these heroes. When did it become okay for society to start aggrandizing the Joker? Why do I look at so many memes and see people praising the Joker? When did that become okay? That we shouldn't be supporting the Joker. Doesn't matter how charming or charismatic the Joker might be. It's not all about charm and charisma at the end of the day, because people are dying. Yeah, you need to wake up. When are you going to wake up to the fact that people are dying here? You can be on your deathbed at 90, you're freaking out. You've been avoiding death your whole life. Now you're 90, you're freaking out. You've done so much bad shit, and now you're freaking out at death, and you're going to like a spasm of anxiety, and you die so horribly. People don't. I want to see documentaries of people dying in a hospital. People don't put other people dying on the internet. Why not? I want people to see what death really is like. So we can be not so blasé to think the apple couldn't just fall on our head randomly. I want people to be awake, to be cognizant of what's actually going on in this world. I mean, it's painful to die. It's not okay to throw out your burger box while you're driving the car. It's not okay to abuse somebody emotionally. It's not okay to turn the blind eye. It's not okay to lie to people. It's not okay to cheat, to steal, to murder, to rape, to pillage, to cause adultery. These things are the pillars of our democracy, and we're breaking them so nonchalantly just because we can get away with it. I want these people exposed. I want cameras everywhere. Let's have our cameras everywhere, and if people are worried about cyber warfare, let's have our people in place, like Anonymous, and let's make sure that we have the most advanced hacking systems. Let's make sure that we have the best leadership, and let's fight for it. So basically, yeah, that was the story. There was a story based on fighting for freedom. So yeah, basically the struggle of being a human being and what it's like living in a corrupted society. In terms of one bad apple, if you have one bad apple in the lot, the whole lot becomes bad. Why do we have to have the spread like cancer? Why does everyone become like cancer? Why can't we just take that rotten apple and throw it away, toss it away? Why must I be absorbed in a conversation of somebody running me down just because he's running me down? Why can't I just cut that person off? Let's cut these people out. Let's cut all of them out. Let's cut the crap out. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that story. I think it's quite a powerful story, quite motivational. And I think that story strikes an emotional content that is important. I think that story does something. It's not just merely entertainment, it's moving forward. And let's be honest here. Like, things need to move forward. Let's move things forward. I mean, I still see so much poverty, fighting, and evil around me. I'm not nonchalant to what's going on. There's so much more we can be doing until every single person is financially free and creating. Let's see some real art in the world. Some masterpieces like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or like the Louvre, or something like that. Like, let's see like masterclasses. America's Got Talent, that kind of stuff. So let's get cameras involved everywhere. Surveying. Let's have it on our shirts everywhere. We're going live. We're not hiding behind anything. We're going live. Let's be live 24/7. What do we got to hide, really? What do we have to hide? Everyone's just like, oh, that person's famous just because no one else is willing to be out in the public's eye. That person's got a thing because now we can watch him because he's allowed to be watched. I don't want to see his phony fake romance novels, comedies. I want to see what's actually been done, what this person is creating, What is this person actually creating? Is this person creating something valuable? Is there any value involved? So yeah, ultimately value will always win. So it's saying you can't keep a good man down. It's true. You can't keep a good man down. The good man will always find a way to beat you because he's got something to die for. The other person's not willing to die for it. It's just a charade for him. The person who's willing to die is the person who's going to win. Person who's willing to die is going to win. The one with the gun is not the one who's going to win, because why has he got a gun in the first place? He should be willing to fight with his hands, not just using a weapon. You can really tell he's got fear. He's got a gun. You walk straight up to him. He won't shoot you. He's too afraid. He doesn't want to go to jail. He doesn't want to go to jail. I walk up to the guy's got a gun. I walk straight up to him. Take his gun out of his hand. Shoot him on the foot. Okay, maybe I'm not going to leave my heart exposed, so I walk up to him like this. Maybe that's a safety precaution. But no. I know. I've got cameras on my body. It's live. Anyone can see his face. And if he's got a mask on and is a really dangerous person, then yes, you have the right to have a weapon. But we don't need weapons in our society. But you do have the right to have your own weapon. You can shoot him. You can shoot him. If you've got it on recording, you can see the situation. He's the one causing the trouble. You shoot him. But we don't want to get to that stage of violence. We want to avoid those kind of places. Those people who can be like that, they can go there. But we will have our military and our police force protecting the society, where we'll have safe areas where people don't need that. We don't need weapons and guns. We don't need this warfare, these tick addicts going robbing people in the middle of the night. No, we want safe areas like Singapore. Why can't everything be like Singapore? It's 100% safe. You can leave anything open at any time. They hang people there for things like doing what you would consider stupid things. They hang people there for doing like drug operations. They hang people. They don't believe in drugs. I think drugs should be allowed, but they hang people things. Maybe for even a fraudulent case. There's some people robbing people in a Ponzi scheme. They hang people for that. That's something to consider. If they're hanging people for that, and they've got 100% safety, people are safe, then maybe that system works. Maybe that's something we need to look at. So anyway, that's the story of the slave. It's quite emotional. It's a good story. A lot to spin off of. We could go for hours.